Hi everyone, it's Dr. Crad, and today we're going to fix this patient's double pterygium. These growths occur due to chronic sun exposure. If you live in a sunny climate, it's very important to protect your eyes from the sun, whether it's UV protective glasses, a hat, or both. Otherwise, these red fleshy growths can grow from the white part of the eye onto the clear cornea. And while initially they only cause some cosmetic concerns and some irritation, when they grow on the cornea and tug on the cornea, they can start to affect your vision. In Southern California, we see these very commonly. The ultimate goal is to remove the growths and to minimize the chance of recurrence, and also to provide the patient with a good cosmetic outcome and to smooth the cornea so that it has a minimal effect on their vision. You see how wide this nasal pterygium is? In this view, it's going from about 8 o'clock till 12 o'clock. I'm going to start by placing a traction suture so that I can control the position of the eye. The cornea is about 1 millimeter thick near the limbus, and so you want to pass this needle tip about halfway through mid-stroma, and you want a long enough bite so that way when you do orient the eye, there's no cheese wiring that will occur. Always follow the curve of the needle as you remove it so that you minimize collateral trauma. The eye has been numbed with eye drops, but the patient is awake. They have received a little bit of light sedation just to calm their nerves a bit, but they are not feeling any discomfort as I'm doing this. After asking the patient to look to the right, I loop the suture around the eyelid speculum and place a steri strip to prevent it from slipping. This suture is not tight, it's lax. You can even see like a bend in the suture. It's just to prevent the patient from looking back into primary gaze. The first thing I like to do prior to even injecting subconjunctival anesthetic is I like to dry the pterygium. I want to be able to mark the border of the pterygium. And so I'm just marking the borders of the abnormal tissue. And you can't write on this if it's wet. I want to remove the abnormal tissue, but none of the normal tissue. And so I'm just approximating where I think I need to be. And I'm staining all the normal conjunctiva that I want to keep. I don't want to remove any of this. And if you look, even though the pterygium grows towards the central cornea, you can see the limbus to the area I marked is probably about 3 millimeters back. Although even as I watch this video, I debate, could I have removed less tissue? But I do want the cosmesis to be excellent after surgery. So I don't want to leave any abnormal tissue, then they're going to get upset that their eye's red. Now I'm going to inject some lidocaine with the epi. And I'm just going to inject a little bit because this part does sting the patient a little bit. Then I use a cotton tip to push the anesthetic in all directions. You can just press on it and then roll the cotton tip and the anesthetic will spread. The reason I don't inject more than that is because I don't want to distort the anatomy too much. I'm now cutting the inferior border of the pterygium with Westcott scissors, and I'm careful only to remove the abnormal tissue. I want to preserve all the normal tissue. And so I first cut the superior and inferior borders of the pterygium. Those are usually very easy to identify. And then I do blunt dissection underneath, close to the limbus. And I want to undermine the pterygium from the superior cut to the inferior cut. I want to go under the Tenon's capsule against the bare sclera and dissect from the superior cut to the inferior cut. The next step would be to separate the conjunctiva from the underlying Tenon's capsule. And so I'm going to make a little snip here, and then I'm going to use blunt dissection to separate the conjunctiva from the underlying Tenon's capsule, because we do want to preserve conjunctiva, but we can remove all the underlying abnormal tissue that is contributing to this growth. So blunt dissection here, and you want to have a lip of conjunctiva that you can glue or suture to the graft that we're going to use. So blunt dissection, just snip out the abnormal tissue. Although like I was saying earlier, as I watch this video over, maybe I would dissect a little less peripheral to preserve more conjunctiva. I'm lifting up the conjunctiva and you'll see these webs or adhesions from the underlying tissue, and I'm just snipping those. Don't go too far back peripheral so you don't get into any orbital fat. And I don't want to immediately cut out this abnormal tissue underneath the conjunctiva. First, I want to separate the medial rectus from it, because if you lift up and tent up this tissue, yes, there could be adhesions to the medial rectus that can lift it up, and then you can inadvertently damage the medial rectus muscle. So I use a muscle hook, place it by the limbus, and then glide it back on top of the medial rectus muscle to make sure there's no adhesions, so that when I tent this tissue up and I cut out the abnormal tissue, I know that I'm not going to cut the medial rectus muscle alongside with it. Now I safely transect the trunk of the pterygium, confidently knowing that there are no adhesions to the medial rectus muscle. And after doing that, I'm going to remove the head of the pterygium from the cornea. And a couple ways that I do this: sometimes blunt dissection with a cotton tip. I apply some circumferential tension on the pterygium and then use the cotton tip and strum the band, so that way the pterygium head is lifted away from the cornea. And however, sometimes if I have difficulty with that, I'll use a 69 blade, which is like a crescent blade but double-sided. So that's another good way to remove the head of the pterygium from the cornea. Here I switched from a 0.12 forceps to a 0.3 forceps, so I get a better grasp of the pterygium as I remove the head from the cornea. Momentarily, I will polish the cornea with a rotating burr, but before I do that, I don't like that I have a thin film of tissue on top of the sclera. You really want the sclera to be bare, so I'm just going to remove this extra layer of tissue here that I don't want. As I remove this tissue, I'm trying to make sure that I don't inadvertently cut the medial rectus muscle. You'll find that it's harder to get down to bare sclera in cases where a pterygium was removed once before, maybe 20 years ago or something like that. Primary pterygiums are easier to get to the bare sclera. Next, I wash away the blood to improve my view, and I'm going to burr the cornea smooth. But before I do that, as you can see here, the conjunctiva is very close to the part I'm going to polish with the burr. And I'm worried that if I burr immediately adjacent to the conjunctiva can get caught up in the burr. And so I'm just going to snip it a tiny bit away from the area that I'm going to polish. There are multiple ways to polish the cornea. You could do so with a blade, or you could do with a burr. I personally prefer a burr. I think it will polish the cornea much better. And there's a battery-powered burr, and then there's a pneumatic burr. And so the pneumatic burr is very strong, and that's what I'm using. When you apply the burr to the cornea, it's important not to apply a lot of pressure. And depending on how much tissue you have to polish away, you can do so on either a wet cornea or a dry cornea. Be careful with a dry cornea because you will go through the tissue much more quickly than if the cornea is wet. When the cornea is wet, there's less friction, and hence the burring process is more controlled. However, a wet cornea always looks smooth. So if you really want to assess how well of a job you smoothed out the cornea, it's best to dry the cornea with a Wexel sponge in order to assess it. So as I do this from time to time, I'll take a Wexel sponge, I'll dry the cornea to reassess, and then I may burr some more. And at this point, I'm happy with how smooth the cornea looks, so I dry the scleral bed. There are some bleeders, so I'm going to achieve hemostasis with wet field cautery. Some people don't cauterize at all. I use wet field cautery at a very low energy to make sure that I don't char any sclera, because I don't want to get a scleral melt. I've never gotten a scleral melt, fortunately, so I think this technique is okay. I make sure not to cauterize over the medial rectus muscle, just the vessels around it. I don't want any bleeding to potentially separate the graft, because I glue the graft on to the sclera, and so if there's a bleeder, it can separate and hemodissect the graft off. Now I'm at the point where I would normally use mitomycin C under the peripheral conjunctiva, but we're going to switch first to the second pterygium. So I remove the suture from the eyelid speculum temporally, and I use a mosquito to hold the suture towards the left, and just enough to give myself good exposure of the temporal pterygium. I dry the pterygium just like before, and then I will place marks right around the abnormal tissue. I want to preserve all the conjunctiva peripheral to my mark. I dissect down to sclera starting superiorly, and then I do the same thing inferiorly, and I bluntly dissect from one side to the other on top of the bare sclera, after which I use a muscle hook to glide it temporally over the rectus muscle to ensure that there are no adhesions between the rectus muscle and the overlying tenons and conjunctiva. Here I use Westcott scissors to bluntly dissect the conjunctiva away from the underlying tenons capsule. After the peripheral conjunctiva is separated from the pterygium, I can now excise the pterygium, and I separated adhesions to the lateral rectus muscle so I don't have to worry about that. I tent up the tissue knowing there's no adhesions to the lateral rectus muscle, and I cut the pterygium at its base. Now I'm going to remove the pterygium from the cornea, and there are multiple ways to do this, but like the other side, I bluntly dissect the pterygium off with a cotton tip. Any residual tissue on the cornea can be scraped off using a crescent or 69 blade, or you can just use a pair of Westcott scissors and cut it flush to the cornea right before you polish with the burr. And that's what I do here. I just snip it with a pair of Westcott scissors, then I clean the scleral bed, after which I will use a burr to polish the cornea. After smoothing out the cornea sufficiently and preparing the temporal scleral bed, I'm ready to harvest the graft that should cover the areas where the pterygia were. In cases of double pterygiums, I prefer to use an amniotic membrane, at least on one side, because there's not enough conjunctiva to harvest to cover these areas. However, unfortunately, due to the patient's insurance, which is Medicaid or Medi-Cal in California, the surgery center would not allow me to use amniotic membrane because they would lose money. The insurance doesn't pay enough to even cover the cost of the procedure at that point. So we have to harvest conjunctiva to get this patient done. Otherwise, they won't schedule the patient. And so I wasn't sure exactly what to do here. And so my thought is I'm going to use all the conjunctiva possible. This patient doesn't have glaucoma, at least now at this point. And I'm going to dissect the superior conjunctiva, draw a line down the middle, and then share the superior conj between the nasal and temporal zones where the pterygia were. I instill anesthetic in the superior conjunctiva, and then I spread it with cotton tips. That can help create a nice plane underneath the conjunctiva, but you still have to undermine the conjunctiva with some Westcott scissors. And then I will dissect the conjunctiva off from the underlying Tenon's capsule. And I'll have two segments, one on your view on the right and one on the left. And so then I will place this conjunctiva over where the defect is, where the pterygia were. There are many techniques used worldwide to perform pterygium surgery. If I had the choice, I would use amniotic membrane in a case like this. But since the patient wasn't allowed to be scheduled with an amniotic membrane graft, this was my second option. I'm curious what my colleagues around the world would do in this sort of situation. I'm curious if anyone would have done this without any graft at all, given that there's two pterygia and not much conjunctiva left. So here we have two conjunctival grafts. They're still anchored at one point to keep them in position. I apply mitomycin C underneath the conjunctiva on each side, and then I copiously irrigate the mitomycin C away. I use 0.02% mitomycin C. The sponges are soaked with 0.02% mitomycin C, and I leave it there for 90 seconds before copiously irrigating the area. Now it's time to glue the grafts into position. So I spread out the graft and place it in an appropriate position. It kind of rolled up on itself while I was irrigating off the mitomycin C, and so I'm just being very meticulous here to make sure that it's exactly the way I want it. And I like it in this position. I reflect the anterior portion of the graft away from the sclera. I dry the sclera prior to applying glue. Tessile or fibrin glue is made out of fibrinogen and thrombin. I usually place the thick portion underneath the graft and then the thin part on the sclera. And then I use some tires to place it adjacent to the limbus. I approximate the graft against the limbus, but then I pull centrally just so it has a slight curve. And then I smooth it out with the tire. And then I reflect the posterior side of the graft. Again, you need to dry the scleral bed behind it, otherwise the graft will not stick with the glue. And so I use a Wexel sponge. I dry the scleral bed over the medial rectus muscle as well. It needs to be nice and dry for the graft to adhere, otherwise you're just wasting the glue. Next, I will apply fibrinogen to the graft and thrombin to the scleral bed. And then I will reflect the graft back, and then I will smooth it out into position. After the graft is smoothed out and in position, now I want to glue the peripheral conjunctiva over the edge of the graft. This will seal the gap between the conjunctiva and the graft. And so I want to do this peripherally, and in this case also inferiorly, but superiorly there's no edge of conjunctiva to put on top of the graft. So I dry under the conjunctiva, put fibrinogen and thrombin, and then hold the conjunctiva on top of the edge of the graft. And then I repeat this inferiorly, making sure the area where I want to apply the glue is completely dry. Only a little bit of glue is necessary. You don't need that much as long as the surface is dry. If the surface is wet, even if you put a lot of glue, it won't stick well. And so this side is all done. This case is basically 2 surgeries in one. And then I repeat all these same steps temporally. I'm going to fly through this side because it's the same thing. So I spread the graft over the bare sclera, get it into a good position, dry the scleral bed. I do anterior first, applying fibrinogen on the underside of the graft, and then thrombin on the sclera. Using smooth tying forceps, I approximate the graft against the limbus. I spread out the graft to make sure it's in good position. And then I will reflect posteriorly the graft, drying the sclera first, then putting fibrinogen under the graft and thrombin on the scleral bed. And then I spread the graft over the bare area, ensuring that it's smoothly spread out and adherent. And then I want to glue the peripheral conjunctiva on top of the edge of the graft, so I dry underneath, apply to seal glue underneath, and then using non-toothed forceps, approximating the edge of the peripheral conjunctiva over the edge of the graft. Then I'm going to inject a little bit of Decadron underneath the conjunctiva inferiorly and within the Tenon's capsule superiorly. And then I remove my traction suture, and that's it. Here's the patient 1 week after surgery. He had mild discomfort this week. I usually tell patients to expect significant discomfort the first few days after surgery. Some people do have significant discomfort, whereas others may have mild discomfort. Patients should expect redness for at least 2 to 4 weeks after surgery. And here is the patient 2 months after surgery. The patient is thrilled, super happy with their result. The vision has significantly improved, and of course now they want the other eye done. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. As always, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate your attention. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.